Chosen one. You are not here by coincidence. You have been summoned by divine timing, drawn into this moment, because heaven has something urgent to place in your spirit. The veil is thin, the atmosphere is shifting, and you are standing at the edge of a supernatural financial breakthrough, a divine wealth transfer prepared specifically for you. What you are about to hear is not information, it is impartation. Just as Isaiah declared, "Behold, I am doing a new thing." Heaven is doing a new thing in you right now. Anointed one, open your heart. This is your appointed moment. Chosen one. Something sacred is happening around you right now, even if you can't fully understand it yet. You did not arrive at this moment by curiosity or accident. You were drawn here by divine timing, pulled into this exact second, because heaven is shifting your path. I can feel the spiritual weight of it, even now, that quiet tremble in the atmosphere that always comes when God begins to redirect someone he has chosen. And yes, that someone is you. For a long time, you've felt a quiet ache every time you walked into a church building. You tried to silence it. You tried to blend in. You convinced yourself that maybe the discomfort was your own fault. You worshipped harder, prayed longer, served faithfully, hoping the heaviness would lift. But it didn't. Because the truth is simple. Your spirit has outgrown the place that once sheltered you. The version of you that once needed structure and routine has evolved into someone God can speak to directly. I understand this deeply because I walked through it myself. I remember sitting in church during seasons when sermons were good, sincere, even passionate, but they no longer fed the hunger inside me. It felt like spiritual crumbs when my soul was starving for revelation. For a long time I thought something was wrong with me. Later, I discovered the truth. My fire had outgrown the room. What I thought was emptiness was actually elevation. That same elevation is happening in you right now. You are not drifting away from God. You are being drawn closer. You are not rebelling. You are responding. You are not losing your way. You are being redirected into a deeper one. This new season of your life is not about religious performance or predictable routines. It is about encounter, about communion, about entering a dimension where the Spirit of God becomes your teacher, your counselor, and your guide. You are being pulled into a deeper realm of intimacy where revelation comes in moments of silence, clarity rises in unexpected places, and you learn to walk with God beyond the limits of a building. But this spiritual awakening is also preparing you for something bigger. Heaven is aligning you for a divine transfer, a release of wisdom, clarity, authority, and for some, a wave of provision that shifts not just your finances, but your entire destiny. This is not about greed. This is about assignment. When God calls someone higher, He equips them with everything needed to fulfill that purpose. You've been praying for breakthrough, for open doors, for change. Heaven is responding not by adding more to your old season, but by pulling you away from what no longer matches your calling. There's a reason you feel restless. There's a reason old routines feel too small. Your spirit is sensing the shift before your mind can interpret it. And I want to make this personal. When God pulled me out of the environment I thought I needed, I resisted. I questioned everything. But the more distance I gained, the clearer His voice became. The more silence I stepped into, the more obvious it was that I wasn't losing my faith. I was finally finding it. Outside the noise, outside the familiar patterns, I discovered the presence of God in ways I had never known before. Chosen one. The same thing is happening to you now. God is preparing you for a supernatural chapter, one where direction becomes clearer, Purpose becomes undeniable, and divine provision meets you right where you are. You are not being separated because you are lost. You are being called out because you are ready. This isn't the end of your faith journey. This is the beginning of your transformation. Chosen. 1. The moment you began to feel disconnected from the places that once fed you, heaven was already signaling a transition. This is something many people overlook. Spiritual restlessness is one of God's first signs of elevation. When your spirit no longer finds nourishment where it once did, it means the season has shifted. It means that what once sustained you has already completed its assignment. And you, anointed one, are being moved into something deeper, something designed specifically for the path you are about to walk. For years you may have relied on the comfort of building sermons and familiar routines. These things were not wrong. They were necessary. They were stepping stones, places where God planted foundations, healed wounds, and taught you the basics of your spiritual identity. But foundations are not final destinations. A pot does not remain in the fire forever. A seed does not stay in the soil once it breaks open. When growth comes, movement follows. You have been feeling the nudge of the Spirit, the subtle but persistent pull into solitude, quiet reflection, and personal communion. And this isn't because God has left the church. No, it's because God is meeting you in a more personal, unfiltered way. You are stepping into a level of intimacy where God speaks not through intermediaries, but directly through revelation, impressions, confirmations, dreams, and sudden clarity. The frequency of heaven is becoming clearer, not because it's louder, but because you are becoming more attuned and chosen. 1. Let me tell you from experience, when God begins to amplify his voice inside you, everything external becomes too small. I remember seasons where a single quiet moment with God in my bedroom taught me more than an entire year of Sunday sermons. I didn't understand it at the time. I thought something was wrong with me, or that I was spiritually unstable. But now I see it clearly. The wilderness is where God trains warriors, prophets, carriers of spiritual authority. The silence you feel is not absence, it is consecration. It is preparation for a type of calling that cannot be developed under the eyes of the crowd. This is why you've been feeling misunderstood. People who once walked beside you no longer get you. Friends who once encouraged you now feel distant. Even fellow believers may think you are drifting because you no longer fit into their expectations. But listen closely. You are not drifting, you are differentiating. God is pulling you away from what is common so he can entrust you with what is sacred. Your calling is not like everyone else's. Your assignment is unique, and unique assignments require unique environments. You may have noticed lately that you feel God more in everyday moments, washing dishes, driving at night, sitting quietly in your room, than in structured religious settings. This is not rebellion. This is alignment. You are learning to walk with God the way Enoch did, the way Elijah did, the way the prophets did, not in routine, but in relationship. Not in tradition, but in truth. Not in performance, but in presence. And in this sacred place of intimacy, something powerful begins to awaken inside you. You start sensing that God is preparing you for impact, not the kind that comes with titles, stage lights, or religious roles, but the kind that comes from carrying the presence of God everywhere you go. Your prayers begin to carry weight. Your discernment becomes sharper. Your dreams become more vivid. Your intuition becomes more accurate, and your awareness of spiritual reality becomes unmistakable. Chosen one. This is God enlarging your territory internally before externally. But along with this spiritual awakening, there is something else. Heaven is positioning you for divine transfer. A shift in resources, opportunities, wisdom, and provision is forming in the unseen realm. You may not see it yet, but you can feel it, a sense that something is coming, something is aligning, something is being prepared with your name on it. The delay you experienced was not punishment, it was protection. God would not release you into something unprepared. But now preparation is complete. The shift has begun. This divine transfer may manifest in different ways. For some, it will come as financial breakthrough, unexpected provision, open doors, restored opportunities, divine favor that puts your name in rooms you've never entered. For others, it will be clarity, sudden understanding of your assignment, your direction, your identity. And for others, it will be influence, not fame, but spiritual authority that causes your presence to shift rooms, your words to carry weight, your prayers to birth change. No matter how it comes, this transfer requires a heart that can receive without fear and carry without pride. That is why God first separated you from noise, distractions, and crowds, not to isolate you, but to refine you. Many people can celebrate success, but very few can handle responsibility. But you, anointed one, have endured seasons of breaking that produced humility, seasons of waiting that taught patience, and seasons of silence that sharpened sensitivity. You are not being elevated because you are perfect. You are being elevated because you are ready. I remember a moment when everything around me seemed to collapse. Relationships shifted, routines broke, financial security dried up. At first, I thought it was spiritual warfare. But looking back, I see it differently. It was divine restructuring. God was removing everything that could not hold the weight of the next season. And when the dust settled, new doors opened doors. I didn't chase doors. I didn't beg for doors. I didn't manipulate. They came because alignment came first. The chosen one is what God is doing with you right now. He is aligning you, elevating you, and preparing you for what your old environment could not contain. This is your season of spiritual awakening, divine positioning, and supernatural transfer. You are not being called out of the church. You are being called into your assignment. You are not rejecting tradition. You are answering destiny, and heaven is ready to release what belongs to you. Chosen one. When God begins shifting your life into a new spiritual dimension, He rarely announces it with thunder. Instead, He whispers it through discomfort. Not the kind that destroys you, but the kind that unsettles you just enough to make you pay attention. This sacred discomfort is not a sign of something going wrong. It is the evidence that God is calling you higher. What once felt like home now feels unfamiliar. What once satisfied now feels empty. And though it confuses the mind, it awakens the spirit. For many of you, this shift began quietly. You noticed that the sermons which once stirred your soul had lost their flavor. The worship that once lifted you felt repetitive. The environment that once held you began to feel too small, too predictable, too controlled for the depth now rising inside you. At first, you may have blamed yourself. You assumed you were losing your passion or drifting spiritually. But the truth is the opposite. Your spirit was expanding beyond the limits of your old season. This is what spiritual growth really feels like. Not loud, not dramatic, but like a piece of clothing that no longer fits. What used to be enough no longer is. What used to feel rich now feels thin. Your soul, once content with structure, now longs for encounter, and your heart, once satisfied with routine, now hungers for revelation. This shift is not rebellion. It is evolution. Chosen one. You did not outgrow God. You outgrew the environment where you first met Him. That is a sign of maturity, not disobedience. Your spirit has entered a level where God is calling you into deeper communion, the kind that cannot be contained within weekly schedules or traditional systems. You are being trained to hear His voice in a more intimate, personal, and supernatural way. I know this path well because I've walked it myself. There were seasons where I sat in crowded rooms filled with music voices and amplified passion, yet something inside me remained untouched. It wasn't that the environment was wrong, it was simply no longer my place. God had shifted the frequency of my spirit, and suddenly the noise that once inspired me became a distraction. I began hearing Him more clearly in silence than in sound, more deeply in solitude than in crowds, more powerfully in whispers than in sermons. And though it was confusing at first, I eventually realized God was teaching me to hear Him directly. That is what He is doing with you now. Your spirit is becoming more sensitive. Your discernment is sharpening. Your dreams are becoming more vivid. Your intuition is becoming more accurate. And your awareness of spiritual reality is intensifying. This is not instability. This is divine training. God is opening your spiritual ears and awakening the gifts that were always inside you, gifts that could not bloom in environments built for the masses. To carry what God is preparing to place in your hands, you need stillness, you need clarity, you need separation, not isolation but elevation. There is a difference. Isolation is a prison. Elevation is a platform that only those chosen by God can stand on without collapsing under the weight of responsibility. One of the clearest signs that God is elevating you is the sudden shift in your relationships. People who once walked with you may seem distant now. You might notice that old friendships no longer nourish your soul. Conversations feel empty. Interactions feel forced. People who used to celebrate you may now misunderstand you. And you've wondered why this is happening all at once. The answer is simple. God is pruning your circle, not out of punishment, but out of preparation. Not because people are bad, but because your calling requires a level of clarity and purity that not everyone around you carries. Some people were meant only for the earlier chapters of your life. Their role has been fulfilled, their season has ended, and holding on to them would hold you back from what God wants to do next. Chosen one. Understand this deeply. Elevation always requires separation. Before God expands your territory, He refines the voices around you. Before He releases new blessings, He removes old distractions. Before He promotes you spiritually, He detoxes your environment. You cannot carry divine assignments surrounded by voices that drain your purpose. Even Jesus experienced this. Before miracles, He withdrew. Before revelation, He separated. Before the cross, He walked alone. Not because He rejected people, but because He needed alignment with heaven more than acceptance from the crowd. And you, as a chosen vessel, must walk a similar path. But here is the beautiful truth. The separation is never empty. God pulls people out so He can place destiny in. He removes what is familiar so He can reveal what is eternal. He breaks old rhythms so He can establish new seasons. And He is doing the same in your life right now. The more your spirit awakens, the more heaven begins to position you for something greater, something that cannot be taught in classrooms or contained in buildings. You are being prepared for a divine transfer, a heavenly shift, a supernatural repositioning that will touch every area of your life, spiritual, emotional, relational, and yes, even financial. God is preparing to place into your hands what your old season was never designed to carry. But He first needed to make room in your spirit. He needed to empty old containers. He needed to clear distractions. He needed to bring you to a place where his voice becomes unmistakable, because what he is about to give you requires maturity. You are not being removed from the church. You are being called into the fullness of your assignment. This is not the end of your faith journey. This is the awakening of your destiny. Chosen one. There comes a time in your journey with God when the familiar structures you once depended on begin to loosen their grip. Not because they were wrong, not because they failed you, but because heaven is preparing you for a new dimension of spiritual maturity. This season is that season for you. You may not have realized it yet, but the quiet distance you feel from old environments is not abandonment, it is elevation. God is not pushing you away from the church. He is pulling you closer to himself. What you are experiencing is the holy reorientation of your spirit, the kind that happens when God decides to teach you directly instead of through the filters of tradition. You have grown chosen one in ways that the old rooms can no longer contain. What once fed you now feels small. What once inspired you now feels predictable. This is not rebellion. It is spiritual expansion. The anointing on your life is enlarging, stretching, widening your capacity. And as that expansion unfolds, God begins to shift your sources. He removes certain voices so you can hear his. He quiets certain rooms so you can rediscover the sound of his presence. He lifts you out of familiar systems so you can learn to walk with him without leaning on anything artificial. Most people misunderstand this transition. They assume distance means decline. But you, anointed one, are walking through the exact opposite. You are not declining. You are deepening. You are not drifting. You are being drawn. God is rewiring your spiritual senses so you can discern him with clarity that few ever reach. Your instincts are changing. Your appetite is changing. Your conversations are changing. Even your silence is changing. And all of it is evidence that heaven is preparing you to carry something you could not have carried before. When God elevates a chosen one, he almost always begins by stripping away the unnecessary, not violently, but intentionally. People fade, habits shift, desires transform. It feels like loss, yet it is preparation. I have walked through this myself. There was a season when the environments that once felt like home suddenly became tight, like clothing I had outgrown. At first I questioned myself. Was I becoming cold? Was I losing passion? But over time I understood God was not removing me from community. He was reconstructing my relationship with him. And to do that, he had to rebuild me in silence. Chosen one, you are living through the same holy reconstruction. Your solitude is not punishment, it is training. God is teaching you to hear him without noise, to trust him without confirmation, to follow him without applause. These are not small lessons. They are the foundations of spiritual authority. Many want power without process. Many desire anointing without isolation. But the ones God uses deeply are always the ones he draws away first. Set apart, set aside, set above. You are in that sacred threshold. In this transition, you will begin to see the difference between what is good and what is God, between the structures that comfort the crowd and the voice that summons the chosen. You will notice how certain teachings no longer resonate, not because they are false, but because you have matured beyond the basics. You will sense when a room carries form without fire noise, without presence activity, without anointing. This spiritual sensitivity is not arrogance, it is discernment. God is sharpening your inner sight so you can recognize him even when the environment does not reflect him. Do not be shocked if people misunderstand your shift. Many will interpret your distance as disinterest, your silence as separation. But you are not leaving them behind. You are simply stepping into the place God has been calling you all along. A place where the Spirit leads your decisions. A place where intimacy matters more than routine. A place where God becomes the center instead of the ceremony. This deeper relationship with God will also reveal parts of yourself you never noticed before. You will feel a new boldness rising in your spirit, not the kind that seeks attention, but the kind that moves with quiet certainty. You will recognize that you no longer need external validation to feel close to God. You will find yourself praying differently, worshiping differently, listening differently. Even your questions will mature. Instead of asking God, "Are you with me?" you will begin asking God, "What are you shaping in me?" As you walk through this spiritual awakening, heaven will also begin shifting the people around you. Some relationships will strengthen, others will fade without conflict. God is aligning you with those who are on similar paths, people who understand the weight of calling, the cost of obedience, the beauty of being chosen. This alignment is crucial. Destiny requires the right company. God will never send a chosen one into a new level with old attachments that cannot survive the elevation. And while this transition carries challenges, it also carries profound beauty. There will be moments when God speaks to you so clearly that you feel His breath in your spirit. There will be days when revelation flows like water, when Scripture opens like a window, when you feel heaven leaning close. These moments are not random. They are invitations. Invitations into deeper intimacy, deeper authority, deeper purpose. Chosen. Let this truth settle into your heart. You are not being separated from the church. You are being called into the heart of God. You are not losing structure. You are gaining spirit. You are not stepping away from community. You are stepping into calling. What God is doing in you is not common. It is not comfortable. It is not conventional. It is divine. You are being prepared. You are being positioned. You are being transformed into someone who will not just follow God, but carry Him. Someone who will not just attend services, but shift atmospheres. Someone who will not simply believe, but walk in power. This is your metamorphosis. This is your divine transition. And though it feels unfamiliar, it is holy. You are walking into the version of yourself heaven has always seen. Chosen. 1. Once God begins to elevate your spirit beyond the boundaries of your old life, something extraordinary begins to unfold inside you. A new awareness, a new sensitivity, a new strength, born not from knowledge alone, but from revelation. This awakening doesn't happen in a single moment. It builds quietly like dawn, inching toward the horizon. You begin to see things you once overlooked. You begin to sense what you once ignored. You begin to feel the presence of God in places you once assumed were ordinary. This is the mark of true spiritual maturity, the ability to recognize God not only in sacred spaces, but also in the silent corners of your everyday life. As your spirit awakens, you start to experience a subtle detachment from the illusions of the world. The things that once mattered, approval, performance, comparison, begin to fade. Not because you have become indifferent, but because you have become aligned. You no longer need the world to reflect your worth back to you. You no longer depend on external voices to confirm what God already told you in secret. And in this shift, your identity becomes anchored in something eternal. You're not drifting from your purpose. You're stepping into it. With this deeper alignment comes a form of clarity few people experience. You may notice that your discernment has sharpened. Conversations feel different. Environments feel different. Even your own thoughts feel different. The superficial begins to fall away. You sense truth before it is spoken. You feel deception before it is revealed. You recognize spiritual weight in moments that others pass by casually. This is not overthinking. This is spiritual sight maturing. God is teaching you to read the unseen, not with suspicion, but with wisdom. As this new clarity grows, a shift also happens within your emotional landscape. Where you once reacted, now you respond. Where you once feared, now you discern. Where you once tried to force solutions, now you trust divine timing. This emotional maturity is not accidental. It is the fruit of a season when God removed you from noise and taught you how to recognize His voice. You are not becoming passive. You are becoming grounded. You are learning to move from peace, not panic. And then something even more profound begins: the transformation of your inner posture. You start walking differently, not outwardly, but inwardly, with an unexplainable confidence, a holy steadiness. You no longer chase closeness with God. You carry it. You no longer plead for direction. You listen for it. You no longer fear being misunderstood. You accept that authenticity often is. This confidence is not arrogance, it is alignment. It is the quiet, steady knowing that comes when God becomes your anchor instead of the world. But this awakening does more than change how you see it, changes who sees you. People begin to notice the shift. Some may feel drawn to you without knowing why. Others may avoid you because your presence unsettles what they haven't addressed within themselves. Your peace becomes a mirror. Your clarity becomes a light. Your stillness becomes a force. You stop blending into the environments you once walked through easily, not because you are trying to stand out, but because your spirit has outgrown invisibility. Do not fear this shift, chosen one. It is part of your calling. Those God sets apart rarely stay hidden forever. Your light, once dimmed by conformity, is rising with purpose. Yet elevation is not without its challenges. As you rise, God will require you to confront parts of yourself you once ignored: old wounds, unspoken fears, learned limitations. This is not punishment, it is healing. God refuses to elevate a version of you built on bruises, so He brings them to light, not to shame you, but to free you. He invites you to release what you once called identity, but was only survival. This internal cleansing is essential. You cannot carry the weight of divine assignment while dragging old chains behind you. During this process, the presence of God becomes both your comfort and your compass. You will notice moments when He feels closer than breath, guiding you, correcting you, soothing you, strengthening you. These encounters are not imaginary. They are the evidence that you're stepping into the with God life rather than the for God life. God is not just asking you to serve Him, He is teaching you to walk with Him. As this bond deepens, so does your understanding of divine timing. You begin to see that nothing in your life has been wasted. Not the delays, not the heartbreaks, not the detours. Every moment shaped you. Every setback prepared you. Every disappointment purified you. What you once called failure, God now reveals as foundation. What you once saw as loss, God now shows as alignment. You were never behind. You were being prepared. This realization gives you an unshakable peace. You stop rushing. You stop comparing. You stop begging for answers. Instead, you begin to live with a quiet knowing. If God opened a door, it is yours. If He withheld it, it wasn't. Your life becomes marked by trust, and trust becomes your strength. And then, just when you least expect it, the shift becomes external. Opportunities appear where there were none. Breakthroughs unfold without striving. People enter your life who recognize what others dismissed. Divine connections form. Closed paths reopen. Doors you never knocked on swing wide. This is the evidence that your inner world has aligned with your divine blueprint. You must understand this, chosen one, the inner shift always precedes the outer one. When God prepares to elevate you, He elevates your spirit first. You are currently in that elevation. You may not see the full manifestation yet, but heaven sees the readiness. What is coming for you is not random. It is the fruit of divine orchestration. Your obedience, your surrender, your solitude, your faithfulness, none of it has been ignored. Heaven has been taking notes. And now the time approaches when you will step into the life that has been forming around you from the beginning. Not a life of striving, but of overflow. Not a life of confusion, but of clarity. Not a life of fear, but of authority. Not a life of wandering, but of purpose. This is the threshold, anointed one. You are standing on it now. Your spirit knows it. Your dreams know it. Your heart knows it. You can feel the edge of the new season as surely as you feel your own breath. What is ahead for you is not small. It is not ordinary. It is not accidental. It is destiny awakened, refined and ready. Chosen one. As you continue walking through this sacred transformation, you will realize that God has been preparing you for a realm of spiritual responsibility far deeper than anything you imagined. This journey you are on is not simply about separation, healing, or awakening. It is about becoming. Becoming the person heaven saw long before earth tried to define you. Becoming the vessel God can trust with influence that is not measured by popularity, but by purity. Becoming a carrier of His presence in a world that has forgotten what real presence feels like. And one of the clearest signs that you are stepping into this new realm is the way your inner life begins to grow louder than your external one. You are thinking differently, perceiving differently, responding differently. What once irritated you no longer shakes you. What once distracted you no longer tempts you. Peace, which used to visit you in rare moments, has now become your resting place. This shift is not accidental. It is the evidence that God is establishing Himself as the anchor of your soul. You'll notice, too, that the more you grow spiritually, the more your priorities change. You crave depth instead of noise, honesty instead of performance, purity instead of validation. You stop allowing the world to decide what matters. Your spirit begins rearranging your life from the inside out, removing what does not align with where you're going. And even though this inner cleansing can feel uncomfortable, it is also freeing. You are shedding versions of yourself that were shaped by survival, fear, and expectation, and you are stepping into the version formed by purpose. This transformation also brings something else, a heightened awareness of assignment. You no longer see your existence as random. You start sensing that your presence is needed in certain places, around certain people, in specific moments that were divinely arranged. You begin noticing that your words carry weight, not because you speak loudly, but because your spirit has authority. And authority is never achieved through striving. It is achieved through surrender. God has been cultivating this authority in you during the seasons of silence, pruning, and isolation. Chosen one. One of the most beautiful signs of spiritual maturity is the way God begins trusting you with insight that others cannot see. Not secret gossip, not hidden knowledge, but spiritual perception, the ability to see beneath the surface, to discern seasons, to understand atmosphere, to sense warfare before it manifests, to recognize divine timing in ordinary moments. This sensitivity can feel overwhelming at first, but with time, you will learn that it is not a burden, it is a gift. a weapon, a compass designed to guide you into the places where God needs His light to shine. But with greater sensitivity comes a deeper need for stewardship. God will require you to manage your mind, guard your peace, and protect your spiritual environment. You will find yourself turning away from conversations that used to entertain you because they no longer resonate with who you are becoming. You will outgrow fear-based thinking, scarcity mentality, and emotional chaos. You will begin choosing calm over conflict, understanding over reaction, silence over unnecessary explanations. This discipline is not about being quiet, it is about being aligned. Every time you choose peace over reaction, you step further into your divine identity. During this time, God will also teach you the power of waiting, not passive waiting, but prophetic waiting, the kind that recognizes waiting as preparation rather than delay. Waiting becomes worship. Waiting becomes refinement. Waiting becomes alignment. And in that waiting, God strengthens your sensitivity, clarifies your thinking, and develops your character. Too many people want a prophetic promise without a prophetic process, but you, chosen one, are learning to embrace both. As your spirit matures, you will begin recognizing the subtle movements of God in your life. Opportunities that once seemed coincidental now appear as divine setups. People enter your life with purpose rather than convenience. Conversations feel orchestrated. Suddenly your life is no longer a collection of random experiences, it becomes a narrative authored by heaven. Destiny begins to reveal itself not in large events, but in small confirmations that echo through your soul. And then comes the shift, a shift so gentle and yet so undeniable that you can feel it before you can explain it. You start realizing you no longer fit into the spaces you once tried so hard to belong to. Your spirit feels too expanded, your discernment too sharp, your calling too clear. You look around and realize the world you inhabited is too small for the person God is shaping. This is not pride, this is clarity. God is enlarging your spirit before He enlarges your territory. Chosen one. The more you step into this higher dimension, the more you will understand that being chosen is not about privilege. It is about responsibility. It is about being willing to stand where others fold, to listen where others react, to trust when others fear, to obey when others hesitate. You are being shaped not for comfort, but for assignment, an assignment that will require wisdom, boldness, and a depth of relationship with God that cannot be shaken. And perhaps the most profound realization in this phase is that God is no longer just teaching you how to follow Him. He is teaching you how to carry Him, how to bring His presence into rooms where hope is dying, how to speak life into situations that feel impossible, how to bring clarity into confusion, how to break atmospheres that suffocate others. This chosen one is spiritual maturity. This is divine responsibility. You are not simply growing, you are ascending. You are stepping into a new spiritual height, where God becomes not just your refuge, but your assignment. You are becoming His instrument, His voice, His vessel, not because you earned it, but because you surrendered to the path He designed for you. This is your preparation. This is your consecration. This is the calling of a chosen one stepping boldly into destiny. Chosen one, as you continue rising in this sacred journey, you will begin noticing a profound truth. The higher God takes you, the quieter everything around you becomes. This silence is not emptiness, it is divine insulation. It is the spiritual atmosphere where God protects what He is forming inside you. Many mistake the silence of this phase for stagnation, but those who carry destiny understand that silence is often where the strongest structures are built. When God is shaping someone for significant impact, He removes unnecessary voices so the soul can finally hear the one voice that matters, His. During this season, you will find yourself drawn inward in ways you never expected. Not with heaviness, but with focus. You begin learning the language of stillness, discovering the wisdom hidden in moments the world considers unproductive. You realize how much noise you once tolerated, how much energy you once wasted, how many pieces of yourself you once scattered into places that were not meant to hold you. This is the maturing of the Spirit. God is gathering you back to yourself so that when He sends you out again, you will be whole-centered and unshakable. This inner gathering also reveals a deeper layer of purpose. You begin to sense that every trial, every disappointment, every moment of being overlooked was not a wound, it was a refinement. The pain you carried was not a punishment, but a preparation softening the soil of your heart, so God could plant revelation, wisdom, and compassion that no classroom could teach. You start to see patterns where you once saw chaos. You start to see strategy where you once saw suffering. And in that clarity you realize nothing was wasted, not one tear, not one heartbreak, not one delay. It is in this understanding that the true miracle begins the emergence of spiritual stability. A stability not born from logic or achievement, but from intimate partnership with God. You are no longer shaken by the opinions of others because you are anchored in a deeper truth. You no longer chase what is not meant for you because you trust divine orchestration. You no longer fear the unknown because you have tasted the faithfulness of God in places where you could rely on nothing else. This stability becomes your new spiritual identity, and it is powerful, or chosen one. This transformation will also change the way you navigate relationships. You will no longer cling to people for comfort or belonging. You will connect with them from overflow, not emptiness. You will love from depth, not need. And you will recognize quicker than ever when a connection is divine or distracting. This clarity is part of your elevation. God is surrounding you with those who can walk with you spiritually, not just socially. Those who can understand your frequency, not just your personality. Those who can stretch your faith, not drain your strength. This shift is crucial because destiny cannot be walked alone, but it must be walked with the right people. And while these new relationships come, something else beautiful happens. God restores your sense of vision. Not the vision of what you want, but the vision of who you are becoming. You begin to sense divine timing in your life. Ideas come more naturally, solutions appear faster, paths open unexpectedly. It is as if heaven has synchronized your steps with something larger than you, and you can feel the rhythm of it in your spirit. This is not coincidence. This is alignment. You are now operating from a place where your spirit and your destiny flow in harmony. But with this vision comes responsibility. God begins to trust you with insights, dreams, and assignments that carry weight. You may feel Him urging you to speak words that bring clarity, to carry peace into chaotic situations, or to pray for people you barely know. This is not random. This is the mantle of a chosen one. A chosen one does not merely receive direction, they become direction. They do not simply carry revelation, they become revelation. Their life becomes a signpost, a living message of what God can do with someone fully surrendered. And as this mantle strengthens, so does your influence. Not loud influence, not public influence, but spiritual influence, the kind that shifts atmospheres, quiets storms, and unlocks clarity in people who have lost their way. You will notice that people begin seeking you out without understanding why. They feel safer in your presence. They feel clarity when they hear your words. They feel peace when you pray. This is because you are no longer carrying your own strength. You are carrying God's presence, and His presence in you is becoming undeniable. Chosen one. This is where your journey becomes sacred in a new way. God is preparing you not only to withstand spiritual weight, but to move in spiritual authority. Authority to break cycles. Authority to discern truth. Authority to speak life. Authority to release peace. This authority does not come from titles, training, or recognition. It comes from intimacy. It is granted to those who have surrendered deeply, listened closely, and obeyed faithfully. And you are becoming one of them. You are not who you were last year, not even who you were last month. Something is maturing in you. Something is solidifying. Something is awakening. You are stepping into a life where your spirit leads your mind, where peace leads your decisions, where purpose leads your journey. You are being prepared for a season where God will not just meet you, He will move through you. This is not the peak of your transformation, it is the threshold. This is not the conclusion of your awakening, it is the unfolding. This is not the end of your journey, it is the beginning of true destiny. And heaven is watching, waiting, and preparing to release the next dimension of your assignment, because you, chosen one, are ready. Chosen one, as you move deeper into this season of divine preparation, you will begin to understand that what God is doing inside you is far greater than what is happening around you. You are not being shaped for a moment. You are being shaped for a lifetime assignment. And the weight of that assignment requires a level of spiritual strength, emotional clarity, and internal purity that cannot be borrowed, imitated, or inherited. It must be built. It must be forged. It must be lived. This is why your journey has demanded more from you than from others. This is why your process has been longer. This is why your wilderness has been deeper. God has been preparing you for something weighty. In this stage of transformation, you will feel God refining your intentions, not your actions. Your intentions. He begins to strip away every hidden motive you didn't know you carried: the desire to please everyone, the need to prove yourself, the urge to be accepted. He begins clarifying why you do what you do, why you want what you want, and why you carry certain dreams. This refinement is not punishment. It is purification. God is ensuring that when He elevates you, you move from purpose, not ego, from calling, not validation, from truth, not insecurity. This inner purification is sacred. It is God making sure that nothing inside you can be used against you in the next season. As this inner sanctification unfolds, your relationship with God deepens in ways that defy language. You begin to experience Him not as a distant deity, but as the breath that steadies you, the voice that grounds you, the presence that follows you into every room. You start living in conversation with God, not merely speaking to Him, but sensing Him, responding to Him, moving with Him. This is intimacy at its highest form, and this communion becomes the fuel for everything you will step into next. But the closer you get to God, the more He reveals about yourself. You begin to notice the subtle ways you use to diminish your own light just to make others comfortable. You see how often you apologized for your gifts, your discernment, your depth. You recognize the times you shrank yourself because others felt threatened by your calling. But now God is showing you the truth. You were never meant to dim. You were meant to illuminate. You were never meant to fit. You were meant to shift. You were never meant to follow. You were meant to carry. This awakening will challenge you. You will have to unlearn the patterns of a smaller version of yourself. You will have to release the roles you once played to survive. You will have to let go of identities that no longer serve your soul. Growth demands shedding. Destiny demands release. And though the shedding feels like loss, it is actually expansion. Every layer that falls away is revealing a truer version of you, a version God can empower, trust, and elevate. As you shed the old, God begins equipping you with new spiritual tools. Your discernment sharpens into insight. Your intuition matures into wisdom. Your compassion transforms into authority. Your quietness becomes a spiritual weapon, and your stillness becomes a place of supernatural strategy. You are no longer reacting to life. You are responding from a place of clarity and power. This is evidence that God has been cultivating leadership inside you, not earthly leadership, but spiritual leadership, the kind that shifts atmospheres and redefines destinies. In this phase, you may notice God removing your appetite for things that once fascinated you. You lose interest in drama, gossip, superficial conversations, and environments without spiritual substance. You no longer have energy for cycles that drain you. This is not boredom. This is elevation. Your spirit is no longer willing to feed on what cannot nourish your destiny. You are being separated not by force, but by hunger, hunger for what is real, eternal, and aligned with God. And soon another shift occurs, the shift of responsibility. God begins trusting you with assignments that require spiritual accuracy. You may sense burdens to pray for certain people, understand things without being told, or feel God nudging you to speak truth into situations that seem ordinary. This is not imagination. This is spiritual maturity manifesting. God is teaching you to partner with Him, not merely observe Him. You are learning what it means to be a vessel He can use at any moment. Chosen one, you will also notice that your presence begins to carry a different weight. People feel calmer around you. They feel seen. They feel understood. They feel convicted in ways they cannot explain. This is not your personality. This is the presence you carry. This is what happens when someone spends time in the inner chambers with God. They begin reflecting Him without trying. Their posture becomes ministry. Their silence becomes guidance. Their life becomes a message. But be prepared, the more your light strengthens, the more certain people will distance themselves. Not because you've done something wrong, but because your growth confronts what they are unwilling to face in themselves. Your elevation will make some uncomfortable. Your clarity will make some insecure. Your authenticity will make some defensive. This is not your burden. This is spiritual differentiation. Those who belong in your next season will recognize your growth as alignment, not arrogance. And as these relational shifts occur, you will discover a truth that anchors you deeply. God Himself is your source. Not relationships, not environments, not structures. God. And because He is your source, nothing can stop your destiny. No betrayal can block it. No delay can erase it. No attack can cancel it. God has been preparing you too intentionally, shaping you too deeply, refining you too thoroughly for anything to hinder what He is about to release. You are now standing in the final stretch of preparation. The atmosphere around your life is shifting. Your identity is stabilizing. Your discernment is maturing. Your spirit is advancing. Heaven is aligning. Purpose is calling. You are no longer becoming. You are emerging. You are stepping into the version of yourself Heaven has been crafting all along. Chosen one. What is coming next is not growth. It is ascension. Chosen one, you have reached the edge of a sacred threshold, the place where preparation becomes purpose and purpose becomes movement. Everything you have walked through, every shift, every wilderness, every awakening has been leading you to this exact moment. You are not standing here by accident. Heaven has escorted you into the doorway of your next dimension, and now the atmosphere around you is charged with divine expectancy. Within you something has settled, the confusion has lifted, the old identity has fallen away. You are no longer wrestling with who you were. You are embracing who you are becoming. The strength you carry is different now, quieter, deeper, rooted in a confidence that comes from walking closely with God, not from proving anything to the world. Ahead of you is not survival. Ahead of you is assignment. Ahead of you is impact. You are stepping into a season where God will not simply reveal things to you, He will reveal Himself through you. Your life will become the evidence of His faithfulness. Chosen one, this is the moment heaven has been preparing you for. Step forward. Your destiny is ready for you now. Chosen one, as we come to the close of this sacred message, I speak this into your spirit with reverence and certainty. You are standing in your Kairos moment. Heaven has already shifted on your behalf. What God has begun in you is not theoretical, not distant, not delayed. It is unfolding now. You are stepping out of old structures and into divine alignment, carried by a supernatural transfer that has already been set in motion. Anointed one. The separation you felt was not loss. It was positioning. The silence you endured was not emptiness. It was God drawing you into the deeper chambers of His presence. And now, as you exhale and release what no longer belongs to your story, the oil on your life flows freely again. You are ready. You are aligned. You are exactly where heaven needs you to be. I declare over you a fresh outpouring of clarity, boldness, and spiritual authority. May your steps be ordered. May your discernment sharpen. May the presence of God continue to unfold in every corner of your life. Walk forward with confidence, because what's ahead is greater than anything you've left behind. If this word resonated with your spirit, chosen one, let it be known. Write in the comments, I walk in my divine moment. And if you feel led, stay connected by subscribing, not out of routine, but to remain aligned with the flow of what heaven is releasing. Until we meet again, stay yielded, stay grounded, and never forget you are chosen and your time is now.